The 2020 political conventions took place in the last 2 weeks, and they weren't normal this year because of COVID-19. They had stark differences in the way they were executed. So today, on Tariq's Take, I will be giving my in-depth review of both political conventions. The DNC 2020 was executed almost perfectly. It was set up like a conference on Zoom. It was very smooth, organized, and easy to watch. I love that they had powerful and influential women every night as moderators. They kept it organized and added a little bit of entertainment. On the fourth night, I loved Julia Louis-Dreyfus's attacks and jokes about Trump. Overall, I felt like I was at a 4-day Zoom conference with various ideas, opinions, plans, and people. On the other hand, the RNC was a hot mess of a fear-mongering political reality show, full of lies and propaganda. Almost every single speaker I felt was trying to scare me into voting for Trump, and none of them actually worked. I was never like, oh my gosh, I need to start supporting Trump now, which I'll never do in my right mind, by the way. I felt like some of the people there were just there because they were compensated to go and support Trump, and they didn't even bring the energy to convince me. And some went way over the top and made it insincere and unbelievable. Kimberly Guilfoyle. Also, it was suggested a lot that Joe Biden's America would be dark and gloomy and unsafe. But mostly everything they were using to suggest that is currently in Donald Trump's America. Overall, it was a horrible, failed attempt of a reality show. It was like everyone there was showing their fake facts, personalities, and lies to try to get me to vote for Trump. The DNC's platform this year was perfect because it was acknowledging racial inequalities and wanted to change them, tackling climate change, the American worker, plans to tackle COVID-19, building a better economy, universal health care, reforming the criminal justice system, making it easier for immigrants to become citizens, restoring the Voting Rights Act, and making life better for Americans, like they usually want to. Personally, I don't see how you cannot like this platform. The RNC this year didn't have a platform, except saying how Joe Biden's America would be dark and gloomy and everything would just run into the ground. Lies and propaganda. Talking and acting like the virus was over. Whining about protest, looting, and rioting, while at the same time completely ignoring the cause of them, which is police brutality, racism, bashing Democrats, and making it seem like what they want to do is so terrible, and fear-mongering at its finest. They built their platform off of everything wrong in Donald Trump's America, and that Donald Trump will fix it. Also making it seem like Joe Biden and the Democrats had been in office for the last 4 years, and he was going to fix Joe Biden's America, when in reality it's Donald Trump's America. Also, not promoting any type of recommendations given by medical professionals to combat COVID-19, given that all live events they had, there were not many masks and there was no social distancing. The thing that gets me, if you don't care enough to try to protect your administration's supporters right there in front of you, you really don't care about protecting the rest of the American people. The speakers at the DNC range from pretty good to amazing. So I'm gonna play a snippet of some of my favorite speakers' speeches and give them an overall review.
You simply cannot fake your way through this job. As I've said before, being president doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you are. Well, a presidential election can reveal who we are too. And 4 years ago, too many people chose to believe that their votes didn't matter. Maybe they were fed up. Maybe they thought the outcome wouldn't be close. Maybe the barriers felt too steep, whatever the reason. In the end, those choices sent someone to the Oval Office who lost the national popular vote by nearly 3 million votes. In one of the states that determined the outcome, the winning margin averaged out to just 2 votes per precinct. 2 votes. And we've all been living with the consequences. 4 years later, the state of this nation is very different. More than 150,000 people have died, and our economy is in shambles because of a virus that this president downplayed for too long. It has left millions of people jobless. Too many have lost their health care. Too many are struggling to take care of basic necessities like food and rent. Too many communities have been left in the lurch to grapple with whether and how to open our schools safely. So let me be as honest and clear as I possibly can. Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is.
Working to establish 21st century social, economic, and human rights, including guaranteed health care, higher education, living wages, and labor rights for all people in the United States. A movement striving to recognize and repair the wounds of racial injustice, colonization, misogyny, and homophobia, and to propose and build reimagined systems of immigration and foreign policy that turn away from the violence and xenophobia of our past.
All of this is possible for America. Who was standing in the way? Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. Our nation faces the worst health and economic catastrophe in our history. More than 5 million Americans are infected by the coronavirus. Over 170,000 have died. The science-based action in the HEROES Act we enacted 3 months ago is essential to safeguard lives, livelihood, and the life of our democracy. And who is standing in the way? Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. Instead of crushing the virus, they're trying to crush the Affordable Care Act and its pre-existing conditions benefit. As Speaker of the House, I've seen firsthand Donald Trump's disrespect for facts, for working families, and for women in particular. Disrespect written into his policies toward our health and our rights, not just his conduct. But we know what he doesn't, that when women succeed, America succeeds.
And at every step of the way, I've been guided by the words I spoke from the first time I stood in a courtroom. Kamala Harris, for the people. I have fought for children and survivors of sexual assault. I fought against transnational criminal organizations. I took on the biggest banks and helped take down one of the biggest for-profit colleges. I know a predator when I see one. My mother taught me that service to others gives life purpose and meaning. And oh, how I wish she were here tonight, but I know she's looking down on me from above. I keep thinking about that 25-year-old Indian woman, all of 5 feet tall, who gave birth to me at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. On that day, she probably could have never imagined that I would be standing before you now and speaking these words. I accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States of America. I do so committed to the values she taught me, to the word that teaches me to walk by faith and not by sight, and to a vision passed on through generations of Americans, one that Joe Biden shares, a vision of our nation as a beloved community where all are welcome, no matter what we look like, no matter where we come from or who we love. A country where we may not agree on every detail, but we are united by the fundamental belief that every human being is of infinite worth, deserving of compassion, dignity, and respect.
The one constitutional office elected by all of the people is the presidency. So at a minimum, we should expect a president to feel a sense of responsibility for the safety and welfare of all 330 million of us, regardless of what we look like, how we worship, who we love, how much money we have, or who we voted for. But we should also expect a president to be the custodian of this democracy. We should expect that regardless of ego, ambition, or political beliefs, the president will preserve, protect, and defend the freedoms and ideals that so many Americans marched for, went to jail for, fought for, and died for. But he never did. For close to 4 years now, he has shown no interest in putting in the work, no interest in finding common ground, no interest in using the awesome power of his office to help anyone but himself and his friends.
Hello. Today's Monday, day 170. New Yorkers were ground zero for the COVID virus and have gone from one of the highest infection rates on the globe to one of the lowest. We climbed the impossible mountain, and right now we are on the other side. We did it with the kindness and assistance of so many. New Yorkers want to thank everyone who came to our aid, 30,000 Americans who volunteered to come here to help in our hour of need. Your love gave us the strength to carry on. We went through hell, but we have learned much. We know that our problems go beyond the COVID virus. COVID is the symptom, not the illness. Our nation is in crisis, and in many ways, COVID is just a metaphor. A virus attacks when the body is weak and when it cannot defend itself. Over these past few years, America's body politic has been weakened. The divisions have been growing deeper, the anti-Semitism, the anti-Latino, the anti-immigrant fervor, the racism in Charlottesville, where the KKK didn't even bother to wear their hoods, and in Minnesota, where the life was squeezed from Mr. Floyd.
Those speeches were amazing, and they were spoken like true leaders. They spoke about what they liked and what they didn't like, what they cared for and didn't care for, but it wasn't like they were trying to force me into believing what they believed. They were truly heartfelt and genuine, and you could tell they were such amazing speeches. I didn't like the speeches given at the RNC, except for the ones who talked about something personal or something heartfelt or real issues in the world. But 4 really stood out to me: Tim Scott's, Melania Trump's, Alice Johnson's, and Ann Dorn's.
Instead, we must focus on the promise of the American journey. I know that journey well. My grandfather's 99th birthday would have been tomorrow. Growing up, he had to cross the street if a white person was coming. He suffered the indignity of being forced out of school as a 3rd grader to pick cotton, and he never learned to read or write. Yet, he lived long enough to see his grandson become the first African American to be elected to both the United States House and the United States Senate in the history of this country. Our family went from cotton to Congress in one lifetime.
It is still one of the proudest moments in my life because with hard work and determination, I was able to achieve my own American dream. As an immigrant and a very independent woman, I understand what a privilege it is to live here and to enjoy the freedoms and opportunities that we have. As First Lady, I have been fortunate to see the American dream come true over and over again. I have met many inspiring women, children, parents, and families who have overcome life-changing issues that include addiction, homelessness, family members who are ill or have passed away, abuse of all kinds, and many other challenges that would make most people give up. The past 3.5 years have been unforgettable. There are no words to describe how honored, humbled, and fortunate I am to serve our nation as your First Lady.
Good evening. I'm Alice Marie Johnson. I was once told that the only way I would ever be reunited with my family would be as a corpse. But by the grace of God and the compassion of President Donald John Trump, I stand before you tonight, and I assure you, I'm not a ghost. I am alive, I am well, and most importantly, I am free. In 1996, I began serving time in prison, life plus 25 years. I had never been in trouble. I was a first-time nonviolent offender. What I did was wrong. I made decisions that I regret. Some say, you do the crime, you do the time. However, that time should be fair and just.
Since I only liked 4, you would next see the most odd speeches.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
America is not a racist country. This is personal for me. I am the proud daughter of Indian immigrants. They came to America and settled in a small southern town. My father wore a turban. My mother wore a sari. I was a brown girl in a black and white world.
In the country you want to live in, one with true equal opportunity, where hard work pays off and justice is served with compassion and without partiality. You can have it. Imagine a world where the evils of communism and radical Islamic terrorism are not given a chance to spread, where heroes are celebrated and the good guys win. You can have it. That is the life. That is the country. That is the world that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are after. And yes, you can have it.
In those speeches, I felt like they were trying to convince me that my beliefs were wrong and fear-monger me into supporting Trump, which they did a poor job at. These speeches could have been a little more heartfelt and genuine. I also want to speak about the McCloskeys. They were basically at the RNC for waving guns at protesters, and that is promoting white supremacy. Because most likely, if it was a black couple, they would have been shot by police, ending up dead or paralyzed, or they would have been in jail. But the fact that a white couple is speaking at the RNC for waving guns at protesters, it's horrible. Also, I want to show you this tweet by Keith Boykin, a news broadcaster, one of my inspirations. The tweet shows some of the black speakers at the RNC. Reading it should be enough. I don't have to explain anything, but I will say, these are the types of blacks they want representing them. It's so terrible. Joe Biden's acceptance speech was amazing. He said what he had to say, told us what he was going to do, started the speech off with an Ella Baker quote, and didn't attack his opponent. It had barely any flaws at all. He spoke like a true leader. Donald Trump's acceptance speech was disgusting. He spoke 70 minutes, and I still don't know what he would do for the country if he gets reelected for 4 years, more years. He was just fear-mongering and attacking Democrats. I just had a hard time watching it. He mentioned the name Joe Biden 41 times. Biden didn't mention him once. I love Joe. A true leader should be able to make his case on why he should be president without attacking or mentioning the opponent. Also, Trump was really dry. It was like he was just reading off a teleprompter. There was no energy that he normally has in other speeches. Every political convention has propaganda, things they say to try to convince the voter to vote for their party's candidate. And the DNC did an excellent job of incorporating it into their speeches. If I was undecided on who I was going to support and didn't know anything about politics, but I knew what propaganda was, I would say the DNC had little to none of that. They did a good job of incorporating it into the speeches. On the other hand, the RNC did a horrible job of incorporating propaganda into their convention. Like each speech, every other word was lies or propaganda. Some of the people looked like they didn't even believe the words coming out of their mouth. Again, if I knew nothing about politics, but I knew propaganda, the RNC would have turned me off from supporting their candidate. Sometimes it got me so angry, these lies these people were talking about. It was just disgusting. For the DNC, I rate their vibe and setup a 9 out of 10, platform a 9.8 out of 10, speakers an 8.8 out of 10, acceptance speech an 8.5 out of 10, and propaganda a 7 out of 10. For the RNC, I rate their vibe and setup a 3 out of 10, platform a 1 out of 10, speakers a 5 out of 10, acceptance speech a 0 out of 10, and propaganda a 0 out of 10. As you can see, in my opinion, the DNC was 1,000 times better than the RNC. I feel bad for the Republicans. Their party is kind of falling apart. No platform. The Trump administration's staff is getting fired or leaving every other day. Generation Z doesn't like them. They aren't even trying to hide some of the racism anymore. Not following or promoting any guidelines regarding COVID-19. It's just terrible. I hope and pray in 2024 they can make a comeback, because it's just not working for them right now. This has been Tariq's Take. I am Tariq Johnson. I will see you in the next video.